Welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be tackling the incredible story of Father Steven Scheier.
A Catholic priest who claims he actually stood before Jesus Christ.
That's right, after a near-fatal car accident.
That's right.
And what's really crazy is that we're going to be using two interviews that Father Scheier did with Mother Angelica.
On EWTN?
On EWTN, that's right.
Yeah.
For those of you familiar with Catholic television.
Exactly.
So we're going to be weaving together his story about his judgment.
His accident.
That's right.
And who stepped in to advocate for him.
It's really an incredible story.
Yeah.
And Father Scheier also had some pretty strong words for the Catholic Church.
Strong words.
About what he thought needed to change. So let's just jump right into this.
Let's do it.
Okay, so it's October 18, 1985.
1985.
Father Scheier is driving back from Wichita.
Okay.
He had been meeting with some fellow priests, and he's driving on Highway 96 in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who've driven 96, it's not the safest road. It's a two-lane highway.
Mm-hmm.
No shoulders.
Or shoulder.
Lots of semis, not a fun drive. And so he ends up in a head-on collision with a pickup truck.
Oh, wow.
And the impact is just horrific. I mean, he's thrown from his car.
Thrown from the car.
Scalp ripped off.
Oh, my God.
Broken C2 vertebra.
Hangman's break, as they call it.
Hangman's break, yeah. So, I mean, this is just...
devastating.
Yeah, I mean, the doctors gave him a 15% chance of survival.
Wow. So they're thinking he's not going to make it.
And if he did, he would be paralyzed and stuck on a breathing machine for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And so here he is, unconscious at the scene of the accident, and a Mennonite nurse happens to be driving by.
Okay.
She's not Catholic, but she can tell that these injuries are severe.
Right.
So she starts praying the Hail Mary over him.
Wow.
And, this is just another example of how prayer really transcends denominations.
It really does.
I mean, it's just a beautiful thing that she did that for him.
Exactly. And the prayers didn't stop there. So you had Catholics, Methodists, Baptists,
Wow.
Even the Assembly of God minister in his town. Everybody was praying for him. He was even on a Mennonite prayer line.
Wow. So it sounds like the whole town was really lifting him up in prayer.
They were. And it's amazing because against all odds, he makes this miraculous recovery.
This is incredible.
He's out of the hospital by December 2nd, doesn't need surgery, no fusion of the broken bones.
I mean, defying medical expectations here.
And he goes back to his parish the following May.
Wow. That is incredible. But here's where the story takes a turn for the unexplainable.
Okay.
Okay, so Father Scheier, he's leading a regular weekday mass.
Right.
He's reading from the Gospel of Luke.
Okay.
And it's that parable of the barren fig tree.
You know the one where the owner of the vineyard wants to cut down the tree?
Yeah.
Because it's not bearing any fruit, but the gardener's like, no, give me 1 more year, I'll take care of it.
I'll fertilize it. I'll do everything I can to get this tree to produce fruit.
And then, maybe it'll be fruitful.
Right. And so he's reading this passage, and all of a sudden, the page of the lectionary, the book that contains the readings for Mass,
Right.
it just lights up.
It lights.
It becomes huge and looks like it's coming right off the book towards him.
Oh, my God.
And it's this bizarre event that triggers a memory for him
Okay.
of what happened when he was unconscious after the accident.
So there's this whole missing piece
Yeah.
that he doesn't even remember, but then it all comes flooding back.
That's right. And so what he remembers is that he found himself standing before the judgment seat of Jesus Christ.
He's saying he literally saw Jesus.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And Jesus starts going through his entire life,
His entire life.
pointing out specific sins, mortal sins that he had never confessed.
So he's unconscious at the accident. Now he remembers being judged by Jesus.
That's right. And he says he had no excuses to offer Jesus.
Wow.
He admitted to everything that Jesus accused him of.
It's really making you think, what excuses would we offer up? Would they hold any water?
Right. I mean, would they work?
Yeah. And so the judgment comes down, eternal damnation.
Oh, wow.
And Father Scheier says, yes, Lord, I know.
Wow.
It's like he already knew.
Like deep down.
Deep down,
Yeah.
that this is where he was headed.
That this was his fate.
And just when he's resigned to this fate, another voice appears,
Okay.
a female voice, and she is pleading with Jesus to spare Father Scheier's life and soul.
I think we all know where this is going.
I think we do too.
Who is it?
It's the Virgin Mary.
It's Mary.
But Jesus initially rejects her plea. He says that Father Scheier had been a priest for himself, not for God.
And he even said that his priesthood was just icing on a rotten cake, meaning his outward appearance as a priest was just covering up this deeper spiritual decay.
Wow.
Yeah. And he admitted to breaking the commandments, choosing his will over God's will.
Right. But Mary, she's persistent.
She's not giving up.
She's not giving up.
That's right.
She says that Father Scheier should get another chance, that he should receive special graces to help him bear fruit, to be a better priest.
This really speaks to Mary's constant intercession for us.
Absolutely.
And her role as our advocate before her son.
It really does.
And you know what? Jesus relents.
He does.
He tells Mary, he's yours.
He gives Father Scheier to Mary.
That's right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and this experience, it changed Father Scheier. Before the accident, he really didn't have any special devotion to Mary.
Right.
But afterwards, she became the center of his life.
The center of his life.
Yeah, he even said that none of the Trinity can say no to her.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful statement.
It is a bold statement.
Yeah.
But it really speaks to that unique power and influence that Mary has within the Holy Trinity. So we've heard about the accident, the judgment, Mary's intercession. But what exactly were these sins that Father Scheier said earned him this sentence in hell? Was it just failing in his priestly duties?
It wasn't just that. He was very open about breaking the commandments, about putting his own pleasure and desires above everything else. He called his priesthood icing on a rotten cake,
Right.
implying he was living this double life, outwardly a priest, but inwardly far from God.
Yeah, so it sounds like this whole experience wasn't just about personal salvation for Father Scheier, but it really led him to take a hard look at the church itself.
He did.
So what did he have to say?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He's not just saying, hey, I messed up.
Right.
He's pointing out what he sees as serious problems within the church, problems he believes contributed to his own failings and are hindering the salvation of others.
So it's like a wake-up call to the church.
That's a great way to put it. He even goes so far as to say that priests can go to hell just like anyone else.
Wow.
That wearing that Roman collar is no guarantee of salvation.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement for a priest to make.
It is, and he's not holding back. He
Yeah.
has a lot to say about the state of the church.
So lay it on me. What were his concerns?
Well, let's start with confession.
Okay.
One of his biggest worries was the decline of regular confession
Oh.
and how its importance has been watered down.
Okay.
He was really critical of priests who give their own opinions
Okay.
instead of teaching what the church actually says, both during confession and even from the pulpit.
You mean like downplaying the seriousness of sin or offering personal opinions that clash with the church's teachings?
Exactly.
Yeah, that seems like it could lead to a lot of confusion. Make people think, oh, sin's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
No.
He was also pretty outspoken about priests avoiding talking about tough subjects.
What kind of tough subjects are we talking about?
Like sin, hell, and God's justice.
Right.
He felt like a lot of priests were shying away from these topics because they were afraid of upsetting parishioners or losing financial support.
So it's like we're getting too focused on being popular and comfortable
Maybe.
at the expense of sharing the whole truth of the gospel. Yeah, even the parts that make us a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So what else was he concerned about?
Well, he felt like traditional liturgical services and devotions like novenas and benediction
Okay.
were being neglected.
Okay.
And he saw them being replaced by social groups that focus on solving problems in a purely human way without any emphasis on prayer.
So it's not that it's wrong to try to help people with their problems.
Right.
But he's saying that real healing and transformation come from a deep relationship with God,
Yes.
which is nurtured through prayer and the sacraments
Exactly.
and a vibrant liturgical life.
Absolutely. He was really worried about what he saw as this shift in focus.
So anything else?
Yeah, he was troubled by the removal of traditional Catholic images and practices from churches.
Like what?
Well, he talked about the removal of statues,
Oh.
the disappearance of kneelers,
Okay.
even the tabernacle being moved from its central place in the sanctuary.
Interesting.
And he was even critical of the growing trend of standing during the consecration. He felt like it showed a lack of respect. Wow. These things might seem small to some people, but he saw them as signs of a deeper erosion of reverence.
It's like we're losing our sense of the sacred.
Yeah, like we're treating holy things as if they're ordinary.
Did he have any other concerns?
Yeah, he was very candid about the lack of real support and brotherhood among priests.
Really?
Yeah, he talked about this culture where priests were quick to judge and criticize each other.
Instead of offering encouragement and support.
Exactly, and he knew this firsthand.
He experienced it.
He had.
Wow, that's sad.
It is, and it's a reminder that We all need accountability and support in our spiritual journey, and it's especially true for priests who carry this heavy responsibility of guiding souls and upholding the sanctity of the sacraments.
Yeah, so it's really about priestly fraternity.
Yeah, if priests aren't living in a spirit of charity and supporting each other, how can they effectively guide their parishioners towards holiness?
Right, it seems like a vicious cycle.
It does.
Lack of unity and brotherhood among the clergy could definitely be contributing to some of these other problems that Father Scheier was talking about.
It's very possible.
So did he have any other concerns?
His final point, it focused on the lack of catechesis, religious instruction that kids are receiving, particularly when it comes to sin, morality, and the Ten Commandments.
Interesting.
He felt like the next generation wasn't being given a solid foundation in the faith.
It's like trying to build a house without a strong foundation.
That's a good way to put it. If children aren't taught the basics of Catholic belief and how to live a moral life, how can we expect them to grow into strong, faithful Catholics?
I say, what was his solution? What did he propose we do to address all of this?
He believed that true reform had to start from within, with a renewed focus on the spiritual life of priests and a return to the core teachings of the Church.
So can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what steps did he think needed to be taken?
Well, one of the things he really hammered home was the importance of frequent and sincere confession. And not just for the laity, but especially for priests.
Okay.
He was really critical of the tendency to downplay sin or treat confession as just like a formality.
Right.
Without a genuine desire to change.
Yeah, it's more than just a checklist.
Right.
Listing off your wrongdoings.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing your need for God's mercy.
Yes.
And making a real commitment to turn your life around.
Absolutely. And he felt that priests needed to rediscover the power of the sacrament themselves.
Okay.
And then guide their parishioners towards a deeper understanding of its significance.
Okay.
He didn't mince words when it came to criticizing priests who offered personal opinions in the confessional.
Right.
Instead of upholding the teachings of the Church.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real betrayal of trust.
It is.
When people are going to a priest for guidance.
Yeah.
And they're receiving advice that contradicts the faith.
It really is.
So what else?
He also felt very strongly that priests need to stop shying away from talking about sin, hell, and God's justice.
You can't just preach about the love of God and ignore, the consequences of our actions.
Yeah, he felt like by avoiding those topics, we create this false sense of comfort that can lead to spiritual complacency.
Yeah, it's like pretending the doctor's diagnosis isn't serious. You might feel better in the short term, but ignoring the problem isn't going to make it go away.
Absolutely. He was convinced that by facing those difficult truths head on, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for God's mercy.
Okay.
And the urgent need for repentance.
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder that we can't fully grasp God's love.
Right.
Unless we also understand the gravity of sin.
Yes.
And the possibility of eternal separation from him.
Absolutely. And it sounds like his vision for renewal kind of went beyond just confession.
Yeah. What else did he talk about?
Well, he had a deep appreciation for the beauty and richness of our liturgical traditions.
Okay.
Which he felt were being neglected.
Okay.
He saw the removal of statues,
the
disappearance of kneelers, the marginalization of the tabernacle as signs of a deeper erosion of reverence.
It's like we're losing our sense of the sacred, like we're treating holy things as if they were ordinary.
Exactly. And, he encouraged a return to practices like novenas, benediction, Eucharistic adoration.
Okay.
All of which, foster a greater awareness of God's presence.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that he's not just, clinging to the past for the sake of tradition.
Right.
But he genuinely believed that these practices have a power to shape our hearts and minds.
Yes.
To draw us closer to God in a way that nothing else can.
Absolutely. And he also felt that the Church needed to invest more in priestly formation and create a stronger culture of fraternity among priests.
Okay.
He knew firsthand the dangers of isolation and the temptation to seek validation from peers rather than cultivating a deep relationship with God.
Yeah, he wanted to see a priesthood that was grounded in prayer.
Yes.
Grounded in brotherhood.
Yes.
And truly dedicated to serving the needs of the people.
Absolutely. He understood the immense pressure and responsibility that priests carry.
Yeah.
And he believed they needed more support, more guidance, more opportunities for spiritual growth, and most importantly, more accountability to each other.
It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life.
It is.
The demands of ministry.
Yeah.
And forget that even priests need to prioritize their own relationship with God.
It's like the oxygen mask on the airplane.
Right.
You have to put on your own mask first
Right.
before you can help anyone else.
And I think Father Scheier's story and his message are relevant for all of us,
They are.
whether we're priests, religious, or lay people.
Yes.
It's a call to examine our own lives and ask ourselves, are we truly living as disciples of Christ?
That's the question.
Are we taking our faith seriously?
Yeah. Are we putting our money where our mouth is?
Right. Are we really living it out? So it's a lot to think about, but it's also incredibly inspiring.
It is.
His near-death experience was a wake-up call, not just for him,
Right.
but for the whole church.
This deep dive has been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Get it.
From this horrifying accident to a profound encounter with the divine,
Right.
to a very passionate plea for reform.
Yeah.
Father Scheier's story is a very stark reminder that we're all accountable for our choices
That's right.
and that judgment awaits us all, but it's also a message of hope,
It is.
reminding us of God's infinite mercy and the very powerful intercession of the Blessed Mother.
Yeah, she's there for us.
She is.
Right.
So, it's a call to take our faith seriously,
Absolutely.
to seek God's forgiveness in the sacrament of confession,
Yes.
and to strive for holiness in every aspect of our lives.
That's right. It's a call to action.
It is. So let's allow Father Scheier's message to resonate in our hearts.
Okay.
Let's commit to a deeper life of prayer.
Okay. Regular confession and a very fervent devotion to Our Lady.
And let's work together to build a church that's truly centered on Christ.
Yes.
A church that reflects his love and mercy in the world.
Absolutely.
So until next time, may God bless you and guide you on your journey of faith.